Alright, so before we start this video, we got some breaking news happening right now for the Eagles. Source says, Eagles defensive back coach DK McDonald is expected to go to Kansas to become the Jayhawks' new co-defensive coordinator and defensive back coach. Before Philly, he spent the previous 5 seasons at Iowa State, where he served as a pass game coordinator and worked with the defensive backs. He apparently is really good friends with Nick Kotite. I think he was a groomsman at his wedding or something like that. So we lose our defensive back coach. I don't know. All I'm going to tell you is this. Based upon how our defensive backs played last year, this may not be the worst thing in the world. And he might not have even have survived Vic Fangio anyways. Because Cameron Wolfe wrote this. Philadelphia Eagles have put in a request slip to interview Dolphin safeties coach Joe Kasper for the same role per sources. Kasper is a young rising coach who came over from Philly to Miami last year. Vic Fangio now has the Eagles' defensive coordinator job, and he values Kasper. And then just breaking a few minutes ago about Kasper, Joe Kasper has accepted the Eagles' offer and will become the safeties coach in Philly per source. Kasper reunites with Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, who targeted him to coach the safeties. So he's not the defensive back coach, but a safeties coach. And Vic Fangio is putting in his people. And by everything they say about Joe Kasper, and I remember when he left last year, people were disappointed. Everything we've heard about him, he's a rising star. So it's a good thing. So this is the latest that's happening with the Eagles coaching staff. I think overall it's a win for the Eagles. And now let's get to this video. Howie Roseman sat there calculating the calculations of the cornbread during a press conference, and he made a point to say, we value linebackers, and all these rumors that we don't are untrue. Well, if that's the case, you can prove it very easy, Howie. Go out and get a linebacker that's actually good. Dallas still stinks. Yo, by the way, kick Dingbat here, and you know I don't forget anything. I forget nothing. And I remember the last press conference was like a week ago where Howie Roseman and Nick Kotite sat and they were giving us this press conference and they were saying a whole bunch of nothing. But one of the things that Howie Roseman said is this rumor that we don't like to go out and address linebacker or certain positions is just not true. As he calculated the calculations of the cornbread, and I thought to myself, well, you can easily prove that. Go out and get a linebacker. Go out and get one. A good one. Someone who can play. And Howie Roseman is going to get the chance to prove it. Because let's face this, okay? We have new offensive coordinators. We have new defensive coordinators. We have a coach that has no cannolis left. He's sitting there cannoli-less. He's got nothing to do but maybe go sit on some defensive meetings, some offensive meetings, maybe go see what they're making for lunch. You know, he's got nothing to do. And that is all because of what happened this season. This is the consequences. This is what came down on the head coach and the former coordinators because of what happened. We have had players get killed in the media, get talked about, you know, they're no good, we should trade this guy. Our quarterback, he's overrated, he's not the same. We've heard all this stuff. Everybody has had to deal with the consequences of the epic historical collapse of the Philadelphia Eagles, except the front office. Once again, Jeffrey Lurie, the owner, really has said nothing about what happened at the end of the season. He hasn't said what he holds Howie Roseman accountable for or what he doesn't. But everybody else has had to pay the price. And we have seen that in years past, where the coaches pay the price, the players pay the price, but the front office somehow is always exempt. Now, I'm not calling for Howie Roseman to be fired or anything like that. I've been sick all week. I'm still sick, but I'm not delirious, at least not anymore. I was delirious earlier. Well, I thought aliens were in my room, but That was when my fever was really high. I'm not delirious, okay? I'm not saying the Eagles should fire Howie Roseman or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying and what I'm asking is this. It's very, very simple. Everybody else has had to be responsible and be accountable for what happened. Where is the front office accountability? Where is that going to take place? Because to me, what they have to do and what I'm advocating for and what I'm calling for, not people getting fired. I'm not saying double moonwalk Howie Roseman's ass out of there. I'm not saying it. What I'm saying is this front office has to be willing to finally make adjustments to how they deal with certain positions, how they value positions. Because we know the Eagles, they value certain positions more than others. So they'll be willing to pay more money at certain positions where they'll ignore ones as well. So you'll get linebackers. If you look at linebackers for the most part, except for a few cases here or there, and I would say both cases in which we had linebackers having good years, we went to Super Bowls, but they usually don't like to pay linebackers. They usually don't like to invest a lot into linebackers. Same thing we've seen with running backs. They'll get running backs, they'll have them rookie contracts, but after that, they kind of like to let them go. McCoy was really the last guy they signed. Chip Dip Kelly kind of ruined that. Oh, by the way, not to go off topic, but did you see Chip Dip Kelly is coming back, mother? I'm going to double moonwalk his ass. I hope he comes back. It looks like Chip Kelly could be returning and being the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders. You need to change your name. You were better when you were the no-names. He could be going there, and to me, I hope so. I would love to kick his team's butt twice a year. It'd be wonderful, wonderful. Honestly, I don't know how Chip Dip Kelly is going to do as offensive coordinator because I think Chip Kelly has a decent mind. I just think he's stubborn and he'll only run his system. And if he does that, it will not work. But Chip Dip Kelly could be heading to Washington. That's 2 W's a win. Those are 2 W's for us next year. That's for sure. But I'm not trying to get super distracted on Chip Dip Kelly. I'm trying to talk about the Eagles and kind of where we're headed right now because we've seen the coach accountable. We've seen new offensive, defensive coordinators accountable. We've seen the players, get killed in the media, be held accountable. Everybody's being held accountable, but the front office. The front office has a lot to do with what happened last year. You did not have the right players. You let a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson go. You let a guy like T.J. Edwards go. T.J. Edwards had a great year. He didn't make that much money. We had no depth at positions, especially like linebacker, where we just got totally killed. And you got to put that on the front office. So the front office, as far as I'm concerned, what they need to do this year is they need to finally adjust how they view certain positions. So when we go into free agency, for example, normally, what you'll see the Eagles do, and I expect the Eagles to be very active in free agency. I think they're going to make moves. But I see the Eagles, if they do what they normally do, they're going to go after a pass rusher. They're going to go after a pass rusher and pay him big money. And to be honest with you, I'm okay with that. I think you need another pass rusher, okay? If a guy like Josh Allen is available, right, for the Jags, like let's say somehow, and I don't know how this will happen, but somehow he doesn't get franchise tagged. The guy had, 17 and a half sacks last year? I would jump on that in a second. I would jump on him in a second. Pause. But I would. And, yeah, you go out and you get him. But you have to still go out and address the linebacking position. And I was reading this thing on Pro Football Network, right? They had the top landing spots for Patrick Queen. And here's what it said. Pound Ravens linebacker Patrick Queen is set to hit the open market. Which team would be the landing spot for Queen if he doesn't resign with Baltimore? Pound Ravens, Flock, Pound NFL. So that has the landing spots, right? And it has 3 teams. Seattle, Washington, and Dallas. It's baffling to me when you look at the linebacking position the Eagles have and how bad it is, how the Eagles are not on that landing spot. How could the Eagles not even be there? They should be the first team on there. And the reason why they're not on there is because how this team has dealt with certain positions in the past. This team needs to get away from always doing the same exact thing. You know what? You want to go out and get a Brian Burns or something as a premier guy? Fine. But if you can do that and add like a Patrick Queen or a linebacker, it doesn't have to necessarily be Patrick Queen. A good linebacker, a guy that could come in and play. Okay? Get yourself a veteran linebacker and then draft a linebacker in the second round. Do you know what a change that would be to the Eagles and what they've done in free agency year in and year out for the last, 20 years? It would be a completely different thing, okay? I think the last linebacker they drafted in the second round was Michael Kendricks. That was like 10 years ago, okay? So they need to think about these positions a little differently, okay? This team is not far off. I do not believe this team is far off to getting back to the NFC Championship game. They can get there, but it's going to require the front office to think a little bit different than they have. That's where they have to be held accountable. They have to be willing to change how they view certain things. And going out and making sure you invest money in a linebacker is of the utmost importance. And if you can invest money in a linebacker in free agency like a Patrick Queen, who I would want, and then you can go draft a linebacker in the draft, let's say in the second round with one of your second round picks. That would be a huge change from what this team normally does, okay? Usually they like to go out, spend big money on a pass rusher, which I don't mind. They'll spend money on a receiver in free agency. They don't mind doing that sometimes. However, if you look at the free agency with the wide receiver position, you got to wonder, are the Eagles going to go out and really go out and sign a decent number 3 wide receiver? They're already paying of A.J. Brown what he's making, Devontae's what he's making. How much are they going to be willing to pay a veteran wide receiver for a third wide receiver spot? To me, it seems like you draft a wide receiver. Draft a wide receiver early who could come in and be a third down wide receiver. Why not? And I'm going to say this. Nobody else wants to say this. Maybe people don't like it, but I really believe this. I think I would find a way to get Britton Covey some looks at a slot wide receiver in certain points and times. I think the guy could play. I think he could actually contribute. I'm not saying he'd be a world beater, but I'm saying I think he's got some upside there. So the Eagles have to go about things a little different. So, we're going to get into all the specific players and stuff. A lot of them will be franchise re-signed beforehand. So we'll figure out who exactly is going to be out there. But to me, I want to see the Eagles invest in a linebacker. I'm not saying it has to be your number 1 signing in free agency, but I think like your second most expensive signing maybe should be a linebacker. If you want to go pass rusher like Brian Burns or somebody like that, I understand it. The Eagles need all sorts of help. Okay, how about investing in a cornerback right in the draft? When's the last time the Eagles drafted a first-round corner? It's been a long, long time. Usually the Eagles like to use their first-round picks on what? Offensive, defensive line. That's what they like to do. Offensive, defensive line in the draft, offensive, defensive line in free agency. That's where they spend their money. And listen, I'm all for it. You build inside out. I totally get that. I totally get it. But at some point, you have to spend some sort of resources on other positions. And linebacker is one of them. The Eagles have to think not just inside out from your defensive line inside out, but you also got to think about the middle of the field. What about your linebackers? Okay, what about your safety? You have to get better in those positions. Listen, all I'm saying is this. Is the positions like linebacking position or running back position that you often ignore a lot, go out and spend a little bit of money too. It'll go a long way in helping this team next year. It really, really will. And if the Eagles don't do that, if they go out this season and they go through a whole nother season in the offseason and just do the same thing that they normally do, then you know that the front office wasn't held accountable at all. Once again, they got off scot-free, and that's a shame. Because really, at the end of the day, It does start with Howie Roseman. It does start with what players he puts out there. And if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting similar results. The Eagles need to invest at their linebacking position. They need to invest at the running back position. I mean, why not go out and make sure that DeAndre Swift comes back? There's no reason why DeAndre Swift should not be back with this team. Go out and draft a running back in the mid-rounds that complements him. But you can't just ignore these positions to the point where you're pulling people off the streets at training camp. You got to go out and invest in them. And if you do that, I'm telling you, if the Eagles go out and, let's say, for example, they land a Patrick Queen, I think this whole thing will turn around really, really quick. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. Of course, don't be a dingbat. Remember, it's Howie Vision. We're all just living in it. We need DeAndre Swift back. We need him back. We got to do the right thing. If you bring DeAndre Swift back and then you go out and you get yourself a bigger running back, okay, that would be tremendous for the Philadelphia Eagles. Think of it like the Lions with Jahmyr Gibbs and then Montgomery. Why not the Eagles go out and get Swift and then like a bigger back like that? Hell, you could even bring Derrick Henry in and Swift. Could you imagine that? Swift Henry, that would be nasty. Would they do it? No, but that would be nasty anyways. Denzel Washington out.